Hello, I am Elise. I hope you're all doing so good today. Today, we are going to be kicking off my Blackoweenathon vlog. Now, Blackoweenathon, I believe, has been happening for 3 years, so much before my time on BookTube. And this is hosted by Bree from the Loc'D Booktician. So I will link their channel info down below. I'm also going to link the video in which they talk about Blackoweenathon for 2022. So you can view all of their information about it there. They have tons of good information in the description of that video about who the hosts are going to be, you know, what the prompts are. They have a bunch of merch and like kind of wellness box that they're going out, like a subscription box. So all good things to check out there. I will link their channel, the video in which they talk about it, and I'll also put all the prompts below if you're interested in checking out more. So right now I'm going to be going over my potential TBR for the vlog. We're going to play it loosey-goosey. I don't know how many books I'm going to read in this vlog. I'm going to commit to 2, so I'm going to read 2 for sure, and then I have an optional 3rd book depending on how fast I'm reading. And yeah, we will see how it goes. So basically the readathon is just trying to feature Black authors in spooky genres or spooky adjacent genres. That's what we're gonna do. I'm very excited for it. All the books on this TBR I've been wanting to read for a very long time, so I'm excited to get to them. I'm not going to be covering all the prompts. There are 6 prompts, 5 prompts, 5 prompts, 6 prompts, 6. And I am not going to be covering them all. I'm only going to be covering a couple of them. So just know, if you want to read more prompts or more books and all that type of stuff, there's lots of stuff for you out there. So let's go ahead and get into the books that I'm going to be reading. One more thing, actually, I lied. One more thing before I get into that. In Bree's video, she does talk about how she is hoping that people will read lesser known Black authors, people that aren't already in the mainstream. I hear that. I love that. I don't know if mine are going to totally fit that. I have one that is lesser known for sure. The other 2, I feel like they're pretty widely known, so we'll see. One in particular is very well known, but I really want to read it, so I'm going to read it. And that one is, the first one is Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark. This is very popular. Everyone says they love it, and that's why I want to read it. I've had it for a while, and I've been wanting to read it during like Halloween time, so I've been saving it. And this is about, well, first of all, it's a novella, so it's very short. And this is a horror novella. It is about a group of women who hunt down Ku Kluxes, which are demons that basically inhabit KKK members. At least that's my understanding of it thus far. The little tagline in the inside says, "In America, demons wear white hoods." So it sounds great. I've heard spectacular things. I have no doubt that I'm gonna love this. So I'm very much excited to get to this during Halloween time. The next one that I will be reading, where I think maybe this one might be a slightly lesser known, but who knows? I've only been on BookTube a limited amount of time, so I'm not really quite sure. But that is Lakewood, and this is by Giddings. And this is also a horror novel, and it is about medical testing and kind of basically in the Black community. That's what it's commenting on, and like Henrietta Lacks-esque of like medical testing without people's consent that was prevalent in the Black community. And that it gets into that through our main character, who is participating in some medical testing. Maybe she's not being fully told about the implications that might happen to her going through this testing. So this sounds very good. It sounds very creepy and ominous, and I'm looking forward to this. This cover is also stunning. I love it. So that is this one. And I should say this is by Amistad Books, and this is by Tor.com. The other book, optional book that I'm thinking about reading, depending on how quickly I get through those, And this one also, this author is well known. So this is The Deep by Rivers Solomon. And this is following Mer people, and these people were originally slaves who were thrown overboard on the journey to America. And this is, I think, maybe horror adjacent. I'm not really sure, like fantasy horror-ish, talking about themes of race and slavery and kind of trauma and how generational trauma gets passed down. So very much intrigued for this as well. Hopefully I will be able to get to it. And those are the 3 books that I am thinking of reading for this readathon. Let me know if you're going to be participating in the books that you're going to be reading. Again, check the info down below in the description box so you can go see Bree talk about it and all of the other aspects that go along with the readathon. So very excited, and I will check back in with you once I have started reading. We are back, and I have an update on the book that I started. So I started Lakewood first. There's the title. I have the dust jacket off. So this one I'm enjoying so far. I'm actually almost halfway through. I'm on page, let's see, 113. But I'm just gonna give you an update on like where the story starts off and a little bit of like the beginning premise and plot setup. And then I'll give you initial thoughts and we'll go from there. So this starts off with our main character, Lena. And at the very beginning of the book, Lena's grandmother has passed away. And her grandmother, you find out in the beginning, basically helped raise her. And she really viewed her as more of a mother figure, maybe even more than her own mother. So she takes the death really hard. And then you also see her with her own mother and kind of that dynamic and relationship, which is slightly strained because her mother has an illness. It's not specified, at least so far, what the illness is. But I mean, you're led to believe that it's some type of like mental illness diagnosis that is severely affecting her day-to-day life and health and ability to take care of the main character, Lena, which is why the grandmother sort of raised her. That's the initial setup. You also begin to understand that now, especially that the mother's passed away, but even before, the family was having financial trouble, and now they're in even greater financial trouble. And Lena really is responsible for figuring it out because her mother doesn't have the capacity to fully understand or help out with financial struggles. She's unable to work. So Lena is looking for some way to make enough money and is applying for jobs. She's currently in school, in college. And so that is the kind of setup, all the things that we learn to kind of set up how Lakewood, as the title would suggest, plays into this. So Lakewood is a medical testing facility, kind of research facility, but there's really not a lot known about it. And near the beginning of the novel, after we get that initial setup stuff, Lena gets an offer to potentially join a research study that pays very well. And Lena goes to kind of do the initial testing and set up to see if she would be admitted into the full study. Just the testing alone, it's like several $1,000s to go through that part. And then if you get into the actual program, it's like a ton of money, like life-changing money. She goes and you start realizing like how mysterious this company actually is. And she is like skeptical in some ways, but she has a friend who has also been through some medical testing, and like he says that it's been a good way for him to earn some money on the side. So she goes through this and she is desperate, and you get that she is desperate, and even the company I think knows that she's desperate, and you're starting to get some of the like racialized profiling that they're doing to get members or to get subjects, and how they prey on people who are most vulnerable, and mostly in poverty, and how that is disproportionately affecting people of color. And it does this really well because it kind of juxtaposes the vast majority of the research participants are not white. I think there's only one white person out of all of them, and all of the people who work for the study are white. So it's kind of setting up this racialized dynamic to show like how much the wealthy and like white people that are proposing this study are taking advantage of people who are, you know, desperate and in poverty, and disproportionately not white. So I'm enjoying the setup so far. I am really liking it. I was sucked in like very early. The writing is very smooth, and I think it's pretty plot heavy. So like there's a lot happening. There's already been some very eerie moments, and like you're just like, what is going on? Like they put you in these situations that are very bizarre, and then there's no explanation for them, and that kind of adds to the discomforting tone of the novel, which I'm enjoying. So that's what I'm thinking so far. Really enjoying it. I'll probably check in when I finish it, since I'm halfway through, and let you know how I thought of it overall, unless something like crazy happens that I want to update you on. Like I won't give spoilers, but if something crazy happens that I want to reflect on, I'll come back sooner. But otherwise, I'll check in with you when I finish Lakewood by Megan Giddings. Bye. Hello again. So I'm here to give you an update. I have in fact finished Lakewood, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. So many things to love about this book. I think I had initially just told you like the general setup of the plot before, and that I was intrigued. But the last 200 pages essentially all take place at Lakewood. So Lakewood is the town in which the testing facility is set up. And the testing facility is sort of being masked as a shipping company that the main character Lena is working for. So last 200 pages are all in Lakewood, and the town is just off. So there's something clearly wrong about the town. Lena is immediately very suspicious, and there's very weird things that she observes that just go unexplained, because she basically is like, sign an NDA. There's lots of secrecy around the program that she's in, and there's lots of consequences for breaking any type of NDA or leaving the program in general. A big proponent of why she's involved in this program is the medical care that's provided for her and her family, i.e. her mother, who very much needs medical care. And that is consistently why she's staying in. So yeah, increasingly dark things start to happen, and just bizarre out there things start to happen. Do look up trigger warnings before reading this book. if that's something you need to look up. There is a lot of violence in this book, and I won't say it's not gratuitous in any sense. I think it's stated kind of matter-of-factly, but there is a lot of violence, so know that. I thought it was done with a purpose though, and it felt very much like it had a place in the overarching narrative. Things I enjoyed about this, I won't give any more of the plot away so I don't hit any spoilers, but I think that this had so many interesting things to say. I mean, there's the kind of connection to Henrietta Lacks and with like medical testing, and how historically there has been a lot of lack of consent in the Black community that they're testing on, and that is highlighted in this as well. So this gets into a conversation about, like, can you truly give consent if it's not fully informed? So if there's secrecy around what's actually being tested, and the benefits and consequences of what's going on, can that be consent? And, you know, no, it cannot. It needs to be fully informed in order to be able to provide consent. So it really like has a good nuanced discussion of that in here, which I appreciated. Another thing I loved about this book is it takes on the idea of generational trauma in such an interesting and unique way that I haven't seen before. And I'm not going to tell you how it does that because I think it would be a spoiler, but it's so intriguing. And I think it also highlights how, like, in some ways things have not changed. I think that they're still disproportionately affecting people who are living in poverty and people of color. It's just become more insidious maybe on how they do that. So that was very interesting, and I loved that kind of unfolding of the plot to highlight that point. So this was just a gem. I loved it so much. I love how weird and dark it got. I appreciated all the themes that it was talking about and the commentary on kind of historical social issues, but also continuing social issues. And I also appreciated the way that it developed the relationship with her mother, the main character's mother, and the importance of believing someone. And you could even say, you know, the importance of believing women, or the importance of believing Black women. And that is also highlighted really well in this story. So absolutely love this. It was so great. I highly recommend. And Megan Giddings just came out with their next novel very recently. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a beautiful cover. It's like blue, but there's like other colors mixed in all around. So definitely want to pick that up after reading this. So that is Lakewood. I have, oh, and I should say, I don't know if I've said this before, but this is published by Amistad, if you're interested. So I've also picked up the next book, which is Ring Shout. I have taken the dust jacket off again, and this is also red underneath, which matched what Lakewood was underneath as well. So here is the title, maybe if you can see that. So I'm actually over halfway, I think. I'm on page 108, and this is pretty short. The initial setup of this one is you're kind of dropped right into the action. So I will say that about this. This book has been very cinematic so far. I could definitely imagine this being a movie. But you're dropped into the initial action. You're following from one POV, but there's a wide cast of characters that you're meant to get like emotionally involved and attached to. So the main character, Maurice, is a part of this group of women who hunt down Ku Kluxes, which are demons. And these demons tend to inhabit the bodies of KKK members. And they just tend to inhabit people who have a lot of like hate in their heart, which is a great metaphor already going into the book. So they are kind of like a badass group of women who are trying to make the world better by hunting them down. This also says in the blurb, it talks frequently about the movie The Birth of a Nation, and how problematic that movie is and was. And so that's kind of running throughout the novel as well. So far I'm enjoying this. I will say there is like, it does feel slightly fragmented to me in a way that I'm not sure is supposed to be intentional. Like some of the conversations or scenes are not strung together as seamlessly as I would like, but I'm still very much intrigued, and I've already found many conversations and themes that I am enjoying reading about. There's also a lot of connection to Sula by Toni Morrison in here, and I've read that fairly recently, so it's interesting to see how that book has influenced this book. But yeah, enjoying it so far. Excited to check in with you once I have finished and talk a little bit about some of the deeper things going on in this book. So I will see you when I have finished this. Bye. We are back, so I'm here to talk about a few books. So I think you last saw, I don't even know what you're seeing at this point in the B-roll, but it's been super smoky in Seattle, and it hasn't rained in a very long time, so the smoke has lingered. And I think you probably saw that in some of my walks with the dog, or my walk with the dog that I showed. And then it has now rained and cleared up substantially, so I'm very excited about that. And you will see that in footage on the ferry. So over the weekend, my partner and I went to a friend's. They live on Bainbridge Island, and they were having a big autumn party where we carved pumpkins and did a bunch of fun stuff. So had a good time. I'll have B-roll footage of that coming after this, I think. So you'll get to see it all cleared up and very nice. So I'm happy that it's now fine to go outside for extended periods of time again, enjoying it. I have also been reading, but I just haven't had time to film an update. So I'm gonna film one now really quickly. So I have finished Ring Shout, and I don't think my thoughts have changed very much from the last time I checked in with you. Again, I overall enjoyed this. I think it was very cinematic. This would just make such a good movie. I would love to see the movie of this. And again, I liked the social horror, psychological horror element of talking about race and being a metaphor for what hate and bigotry can do to a person, and basically turn them into a monster, and to see that kind of played out in this book. I also enjoyed the discussion of righteous anger and what that is. Lots of great things to say about this. My complaints are still the same in that I think it was a little disjointed. So some of the scenes that were happening didn't flow smoothly for me, and that might have been a stylistic choice, but it was just something that I didn't personally enjoy as much. And then I also do think that this was trying to do maybe a little bit too much in the length, and those complaints kind of go together. Some parts just didn't feel as fully fleshed out as I would have hoped that they would be, and it limited my engagement in the story in some parts. So overall, still enjoyed it though. Very much get what the hype is about with this one. So yeah, that was Ring Shout. And then I have also since started The Deep by River Solomon. I misspoke earlier. This is also by David Diggs, William Hudson, and Jonathan Snipes. So there's some co-collaborators down on the bottom. So by all of them, and this is really good so far. I'm already over halfway through. I'm on page 96, and this is about a kind of merfolk people called the Wajinru, and they live in the depths of the ocean, right at the seafloor. It starts out following one particular person or mer person called Yetu, and they are the historian for this group of people. And the historian basically has the role that they hold all of the memories of all of their ancestors and anyone currently living in their community. And then once a year, they have this event called the Remembering, in which they give all of the memories back to their people for a given time, and then they'll take them back at the end of the Remembering. And this is basically so the entire community doesn't have to hold the trauma, like vast history of trauma of their people, and they can kind of go on living their lives, but still have moments where they can remember where they've come from. So that's the setup of this. So Yetu is the main protagonist, and they are the historian for the group. And Yetu is clearly not doing well being the historian. So they are kind of dying. And that's kind of where you start out at the beginning of the book. So Yetu is trying to figure out how they're going to continue on doing this, because they just don't feel like they can. Yeah, that's the setup. I'm further than that, but I'm hesitant to add more to the plot than that because I don't want to give anything away. All of what I just said is in the blurb on the back. Oh, actually it does tell you what happens after. Maybe in my next checkup I'll tell you the other part of the blurb that happens when I'm giving my review. But yeah, really enjoying this so far. The writing is so good. This does a good job of flashing back into like their ancestors and like the history itself, and then coming back to the present day. Like, it's never confusing. It always makes a lot of sense when it happens. And both storylines are very intriguing, so I appreciate that as well. Yetu is just a really interesting character to follow. I think she's like very sensitive and vulnerable and sweet, but also has all of this like strength and power that maybe she doesn't even know. So she's a really complex character to follow. And I like the ways that like in trauma can inhabit the body, and you know what that would do to a person trying to hold all of that trauma at one time, and what it would even look like for a community to be able to not live with that trauma, right? For the majority of the community to not live with that, and the effects that has. So it's a really interesting premise. I'm very excited to see where it ends up. Yeah, so I will check back in once I finish this. I'm hoping to finish this tonight and to check back in with you tonight so I can wrap this vlog up. So yeah, I might be checking in with you when the light is much worse. Who knows? And I will see you in a little bit. Bye. Finished the books, so I'm ready to wrap up this one. This was amazing. It was so amazing. I loved it. Yeah, I'm not even sure what to add from what I was talking about before, but I can include like where the plot goes, which is also in the blurb. After what I've said before, Yetu, the main character, who is dying from having told the history alone, basically starts the remembering process. So gives all the memories to her people and then flees because she doesn't feel like she can take them back because it will kill her. So she flees and leaves the memories with her people. not knowing what that's going to do to them, and whether or not they'll be able to survive that. But she knows that she can't survive and just feels like she has to do this or she'll die. So that's kind of where the plot goes. It's like her fleeing and like the journey that she goes on and like where that ends up, which I won't spoil. But yeah, I think this just did such a brilliant job of talking about like a collective consciousness in addition to the effects of trauma that they have not just on individuals but as like have on a group of people as well. And I think this also did a wonderful job of like celebrating the earth, particularly the ocean, and all the ocean gives to us as like a collective global people and what that means. Yeah, there were just so many amazing things in this. I adored it. I highly recommend people reading this. And if you read this, I don't know if every edition has this, but this one at least has a section in the back. It's an afterword that talks about the Deep, the song, which this is kind of another iteration of in novel form. And then like the original creators of that song, it's been redone more recently, and then now this novel. So it talks about how they're all interconnected, and it's really, really well done. I'm not going to try to explain it here because I wouldn't do it justice, but I highly recommend reading that if you have an edition that has it. It adds a lot of meaning to the story, and I very much appreciated that. So yeah, this was fantastic. We have read 3 books in this vlog. I will lift them up for you so you can see them all. Here are the 3 books. I would say if I had to rank them, I enjoyed all of them. I'll just start with that. But if I had to rank them, I think they would be in this order. So Ring Shout being my least favorite, then Lakewood, then The Deep. These 2 are really close together. Part of me is like, I'm wondering if I'm just liking this a little bit more because I just read it. But all of them were good. All of them I recommend. And I particularly loved the top 2. So that was this reading vlog. I really enjoyed this experience. Part of why I wanted to do this is I'm brand new to reading horror. This is the first year I've ever read horror in my life. And it's like, I think, other than like, you know, literary contemporary, which is always the highest, I think this is like my 3rd top genre I've read this year, which is horror. So I'm so grateful I got to read 3 amazing like horror adjacent books, or like full-on horror, and I got to read 3 by Black authors. So I really enjoyed the experience. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And this video is supposed to go up on Wednesday if all goes well. So there will still be 5 days left of the readathon if you're interested in participating. So highly encourage you to fit a book in if you can, if you're so able. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this process. So I will see you in the next video soon. Bye.